There is something that a lot of men do, and it's usually the guys who work from home is not leave the fucking house. They stay inside. I have worked with guys who are successful. They kill it in business, they kill it at work, but they can spend 2, 3, 4, 5 days indoors. When it's even beautiful like this, they will be stuck indoors, just focused on their work, or even if they're not working, they're just indoors, maybe playing computer games or consuming endless amount of content. But whatever they're doing is they're not leaving the house. Now, you're a man. Masculinity needs challenges. It needs to leave the cave. This is one of the biggest complaints that women have, especially wives who've been in long-term relationships, mid-term and long-term relationships. And again, I also was very guilty of this. What a lot of guys tend to do is when they get into a relationship, everything is hunky-dory, everything is exciting. There's lots of dates, date nights. They're doing lots of wonderful things. But as the relationship progresses, what she tends to notice is that he starts to slow down. He starts to become more comfortable. And over time, his hobbies, his passion, his maybe gym, outdoor activities starts to fade away. And another thing that starts to happen is that he is no longer as connected with his friends, his peers. And especially nowadays when we work, a lot of people work from home, they become stuck inside, stationary. That's a man becoming domesticated. And one of the most, I would say, unattractive and painful things as a man is a domesticated man. See, a domesticated man starts to weaken his masculine edge. He no longer has that masculine feeling. His testosterone starts to degrade. He starts to erode in this home life, especially guys who are single parent. I'm a single parent, and I've noticed that I'm very aware of that. I'm becoming more domesticated. So I have kids, and I'm spending a lot of time doing a lot of the household stuff. Again, that needs to be done, of course. But what I'm realizing is that it's taking me away from my own super genius, the genius that I have, the genius that every man has. And what happens is that as we become more domesticated, we start getting into more, I would say, routines that starts to really have a negative impact on his mental health. So he's more isolated. He's doing more of the kind of like work that isn't required, that requires build, construction, even destruction. So he's no longer doing that. What he's doing is just surviving, living. He's focusing much more on the nurturing side, which is very much the feminine side. Again, men need to do this. I'm not saying we don't need to do this, but what happens is that the balance is being lost. The temperance is lost. One of the virtues in Stoicism is temperance. So when we start to lose temperance, we start to get away from our own nature. And when we start to deviate from our nature, then we start to suffer. As the Stoic says, that as soon as we start to get away from nature, we start to suffer. So as soon as we start to eat more processed rubbish food, we start to pay the price for it and suffer from it. So the more we're getting away from nature, the more we're becoming domesticated as men, the more feminized men as we're becoming. Again, even if you look at schools, schools are highly feminizing for men. Sit down, work. For most of our life, evolutionary, men have been doing physical work, being out there, hunting, protecting, building, destroying, whatever it is. Now it's much desk work, which again starts to, I mean, some guys are amazing at this. And I'm not saying that we don't do this, but I'm saying that we really need to start accessing different parts of us. So one of the healing journeys that we need to do as men is to start becoming less codependent on our partner. So what that means is that as soon as we start becoming more codependent, we start to not do our own things. We wait for her to initiate social interactions. We wait for her to arrange things for him, like his appointment, his health appointments. We leave a lot to her to manage. And that domesticated man ends up building a mother parent-child relationship. So she's like the mother for him. And again, that's very off-putting. I mean, what woman wants to have an intimacy with a guy who she has to keep parenting? So this hyper codependency or even hyperdependency is can show up in early stages. So we'll do everything together. My first relationship was very much like this. People said, it's like you guys are joined at the hips. You go to events together. If she doesn't want to go to the event, you won't go. If she's upset, you'll just make sure that you won't do your activities. She might even say to you, hey, why are you going to the gym? I don't feel so great. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll pacify. And then I'll just roll over and then stay with her. Of course, if she's really ill, then you need to be able to look after her. But what most guys who are really codependent is what they tend to do is they just keep leaning into their own discomfort when she's feeling discomfort. So I had a guy, and he was married, and newly married, and he said, "How my wife, she says to me, why are you going to the gym?" And first time he started to, he said, "Okay, cool, I'll stay in and I'll spend some time with you." And she was just feeling lonely. She was just feeling wanting some attention. And then this happened once, this happened twice, and this just kept on reoccurring. And then he started to forego all his plans just to make sure that she wasn't uncomfortable. But actually, he was more uncomfortable, and he was trying to pacify his discomfort by trying to make or fix her. And over time, he started to lose his own identity, to lose his own self. And a lot of guys will do this, especially guys who have a lot of codependent behavior, where they're not independent, they're not individualized. And that's the process of individualizing ourselves, becoming our own identity, our own self. So we are regulated by ourself, not our partner. So our emotional regulation for most codependent, nice guys, enmeshed guys, mother-son enmeshment guys, what happens is that their partner regulates their nervous system. So when she's happy, he's happy. When she's upset, he's upset. And all he does is focuses on just trying to make the situation, trying to bring peace at home. But the danger is that he steps away from his purpose. When he's stepping away from his purpose, then he no longer is in his masculine strength, the part that she was really attracted to. So when that happens where, hey, I need to, I have a non-negotiable, which is going to the gym. I will always go to the gym. And of course, if there's circumstances where she's ill, I need to look after anybody, you will show up. But if it's just to pacify her feeling that she's feeling lonely or sad, maybe you can work on that prior. Maybe there's something else in the relationship that you failed to do. Maybe you failed to have a lot of presence, a lot of connection time. Maybe you weren't empathetic enough, which again is something I teach guys, how to be empathetic without losing your fucking balls. So when you have non-negotiables, that is what makes you super attractive, because you have the capacity, the ability to stand firm in your principles. And a lot of my work involves guys building a strong foundation and habits where they're not easily swayed by her emotions or her disapproval or her discomfort or anybody else's. It's not just their partner. I mean, this can apply to kids as well. It's that having that strong, establishing that strong boundary, that comes from the fact that you have deep roots, and you've got to have deep roots. I'm like this tree. It's got a huge, massive amounts of deep roots, which keeps it strong. And that's the one thing that you'll notice with guys. Guys who are easily pushed around, they don't have deep roots, and we need deep roots. And you start doing this, you start building this by having non-negotiables in your life. So a non-negotiable for me in my life is I want some good mobile phone use in my house. So there are limits when anybody comes in, even if I'm dating anybody, I have restrictions about how and what and when they can use mobile phones if you're in my house. I will have limitations. So I have some restrictions about not restrictions, but habits that keep me propped up, that keep me strong. So for example, you get up in the morning, not looking at your mobile phone, going to bed, 10 o'clock, not looking at your phone, unless you're out, unless you're doing activities, unless there's business work you have to do. There'll be non-negotiables, like I'm always going out for a walk. I have to walk 3-4 times a day. That's non-negotiable. I'm not giving that up for anyone because that helps and props my mental health up. Other non-negotiables, I have to be doing some sort of movement. There's a whole list of things that I work with the guys that keeps them propped up, keeps them working on themselves. And that's what codependent guys need to do, is to really start to build their own principles. So they start marching at the beat of their own drum. They start becoming individualized, their own self, their own identity. And if you ask a lot of guys, what do you like? What do you want? What don't you want? Most of the guys will be able to answer, well, I don't want this, I don't want this, I want this. But if you ask them, what do you want? What do you want in a relationship? What do you want in a woman? What do you want in your life? They're like, I don't know. The reason why they don't know, and again, I worked with a lot of guys who say this, and again, I'm one of those guys as well. So everything I'm teaching is because of what I've experienced it, and I'm still experiencing it. So if you ask a lot of men, what is it that you want? Most men can't answer this because they come and are regulated from their external world. So because they've spent so much time trying to please other people, connect with other people, the codependency is so strong that they are no longer be able to identify what they want, and they require that from everybody else. Like, for example, recently I was out for a meal with some guys, and the guys will always be deferring. It's like, what are you ordering? I'm like, what do you want? I don't know. I'm like, just make a decision. Well, I don't want to get it wrong. So there's always some sort of deferring that happens in a relationship. What do you think we should do? I don't know. What do you think we should do? So when a domesticated guy, just usually keeps deferring to his partner. Another obvious example was, I was sitting in a cafe and I was working away. Again, I like to be outside the house, and I highly recommend guys who work from the house go outside. And this is such a common one, guys. This is super unattractive and it erodes attraction. When you go to a restaurant, a bar, or a cafe or something like that, this is something that I see all the time in my cafe. They'll walk in, they'll get their coffee, and he'll stand still, and then he'll say to her, where shall we sit? I mean, really? You can't even make a fucking decision of where to sit and lead a woman? How unattractive is that? So here's something that I always teach the guys. When you organize a meal out, you ought to decide where you sit in that restaurant. I will walk in and I'll say table for 2 or table for 3 or table for 5. I will lead, and usually the waiter or waitress will say, okay, take the menu, follow me. I pause at that moment because I'm there to spend money, enjoy myself. I will look around and I will decide where to sit. I'm not being dictated by the waiter or waitress where to sit. Of course, if there's only 1 or 2 spaces left, then you're out of numbers. That's limitation. But the limitation shouldn't come from your internal world. If it's external world limitation, fine. You got to go with whatever the space is or whatever you reserved. But as this is just a subtle clue of guys just giving up their own power. These are the guys who just give up their own power because they're letting everybody else decide for them of what they want. So how about you go in there next time and say, pause, I'm sitting there. I was on a date once and we didn't have a reservation. And I said to the guys, look, it's just 2 of us. And he says, well, we're really booked. I looked around, I'm going, it's fucking empty. He says, well, there's going to be a surge coming in about half an hour. I'm like, well, we're going to be an hour and a half or something like that. And he says, well, I can't help you. I can't accommodate you. And he says, I can do that table. Table was reasonable. Anyway, we sat down. Half an hour goes by. It's still empty. I called the guy over. I said, it's been half an hour. There's lots of empty tables. And then I said to him, I want to sit there. He's like, it's reserved. I'm saying, I want to sit there or I'm not. I'm canceling my order. Because still, it's half empty. And I said, we're only here for another hour or so. I want to sit there. And I just left it at him. I didn't negotiate with him. I said, I want to sit there. He said, okay. And he ran around and he organized the table. And it was a really nice spot. I really wanted to have a really good date there. And my date just watched. And I think she felt a little bit awkward. But I was like, hey, listen, this is the point of like getting what you want. You gotta have that. You gotta take that risk. There was a risk of him getting angry or having some pushback, but I'm okay with that. And you gotta be able to have that capacity. That's what masculinity is. That's what testosterone is, that confidence and strength to be able to decide and choose on your terms. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be complete ass about it and not take other people into consideration. That's not what I'm saying. The practice I'm encouraging you is to start deciding on your own life, your own desires and wants. And that starts by not being overly attached to everybody else. And that means having your own life, having your own hobbies, your friendships, the people around you, your own dreams, your own aspirations, and you don't have to do everything with your partner. And that's the most important thing, is you got to have that independence, especially a lot of guys who are hyper dependent on their partner for their own emotional regulation and their own happiness. Because you'll hear a lot of guys say, well, when I get a partner, I'll be happy. That's already a sign to let me know, poof, there is a lot of codependency. There's a lot of stuff in the background that they're attached. So when they find a partner and they think, oh, I'm going to be happy when I get my partner, they will become super codependent. They'll become needy and they'll rely on their partner to provide them with that happiness. So if you're the kind of guy who says, well, I need a partner to be happy, then you're heading towards trouble. That's a major red flag as well. And again, it's a red flag on the other side as well. When she feels like, I need a relationship to be happy. The moment she says that, run. Okay, run. Because what you want is you want to date people who already have a really good baseline of happiness. Baseline of happiness. And especially when you start a family, research shows that whatever your happiness level point is, you go down a notch or two. And it happens because, kids are stressful. They are monkey brain, latching on to your energy, your resources, and they're exhausting. Right? There's a lot of reward for them. Absolutely. It really does help you grow as an individual as well. So there's always the yin and yang. No matter how thin you slice it, there's always two sides to things. So, gentlemen, start working on yourself, individualizing yourself, build your own masculine foundation. That's the work I do with the guys, is building their own masculine foundation. And when you go out with this masculine foundation, how attractive are you? You don't have to worry about pickup lines. You don't have to worry about, did I say the right thing? Did I look good? Am I looking foolish? Am I embarrassing myself? Will she like it? You don't have to be worried about whether she's going to leave you or not, because you come from a place of, I'm good with you, I'm good without you. The moment you come from this place, it's powerful, it's attractive, it's charismatic,